So this lesson is on the channels of distribution. So what is distribution? Distribution is the process of getting products from the production to the consumer. The two components of distribution that we're going to look at are 1. Selecting, developing, and managing distribution channels, and 2. Physically distributing goods and services through those channels. There are challenges with these components. Which channel do you select? Which are the advantages and disadvantages to each channel? And what are the logistics? So how does the product physically get from the producer to consumer? You may have heard this word multiple times in this course, logistics, and that is all the little decisions that are made in order to get things from the producer to the consumer. Distribution policy. So distribution policy is the policy regarding how a business wants its products to be distributed to consumers. There are 4 types of policies. Number 1 is intensive, number 2 is selective, number 3 is exclusive, and number 4 is integrated. The first policy, intensive distribution. The goal is to get the product sold in as many different places as possible. Advantages include increase in sales at a fast pace, an increase in recognition of the brand and the product. Disadvantages include lack of control of retail locations. So with so many people handling the product, it could be risky for the brand if it doesn't go right. As well, there's intense competition and many other products using this channel. So it's not as exclusive and it could be overlooked by consumers. Examples of intensive distribution include Coke and gum. The second one, selective distribution. The goal is to try to control the distribution of product, but not exclusively. Advantages of this policy include some control over where the product is sold, but the product can still be sold over a large area. Disadvantages include legal implications and purchase minimums. So that means that the retailer has to purchase a certain amount of the product in order to get it, as well as missing out on possible sales. So when you don't have your product in every single channel, you have the possibility of missing out on some sales that could be lucrative for your business. Exclusive distribution is next. The goal is, in exclusive distribution, it contracts with 1 or 2 businesses in a certain area. So the advantages of this is having control over your image or brand and favorable agreements. So when you're working with another partner in selling your product and you're able to spend a lot of time and get to know them, then that way you're able to have good agreements on everything and really understand each other. Disadvantages would be that it can severely limit the sales by just having it through 1 exclusive channel or 2, and the geographical problem in that your products are not reaching as many places as it could, which could increase your sales if it wasn't so exclusive. Last policy is integrated distribution. The goal of this is when the business owns both distribution and manufacturing. The advantages of this is that the company has total control over the product and gets to keep all the sales revenue. The disadvantages of this policy is that they have to handle all the expenses and all the difficulties or challenges with the product. So there are many ways that things can go from the producer to the consumer. We're going to look at some possible channel paths. So on the left are all the producers, and on the right are all the consumers. The first path is just the producer and goes directly to the consumer. The second path is the producer to a retail store to the end consumer. The third path is a producer to a wholesaler distributor, like Costco, to a retailer, and then to the end consumer. And the last one is the producer to the specialty channel to the consumer. We're going to talk about all these different channels coming up next. So this first type of channel is direct. If you look at the diagram, this is when it goes right from the producer or the manufacturer to the consumer or end customer. Examples of this would be a lemonade stand, where they make the lemonade and sell it right to the customer. Or a factory outlet store, where the product is made in the factory and customers can go right to that factory and purchase it. Another example would be a bakery where they bake the goods and immediately sell to the customer that walks through the door. The second type of channel are indirect channels. This is when companies use distribution intermediaries who make a profit off holding on to the product. They either store it, or they transport it, or they find other distribution for the product. If you look at the two diagrams, the first one has it going from the producer to a retail store to the end consumer. The retail store in between makes a little bit of money off these products. The second one goes from producer to a wholesaler, which they buy large quantities of this product, then they sell to a retailer and to the end consumer. Both the wholesaler and the retailer make some money off of holding and distributing these products before they get it to the end consumer. So a little bit more about indirect channels. Examples of indirect channels. One is wholesalers, where foreign-made product goes to exclusive importer who sells to retail outlets in a geographical area. The second is a wholesaler. Wholesalers buy products from domestic manufacturers and sell them to retail stores and other businesses. They are generally bigger stores that buy large quantities of these items and hold them to then sell to the retailers. And then retailers is an indirect channel, and that's essentially where it's a store being able to sell product to the end customer. So why would companies go the indirect route? Well, there are advantages of using a wholesaler for the retailer. So the first one, as I mentioned, is that wholesalers can buy in bulk, and when they buy large quantities of products, they can get these at a lower cost per unit. The second one is warehousing, and this is where these wholesalers have large buildings that hold on to a greater amount of product in case it's needed, so that these stores never run out, and they can again keep it at a cheaper cost. Also, it's risk-bearing, so a retailer has less risk for owning large quantity of product with unknown or changing demand. A wholesaler, on the other hand, can hold on to this product with little to no risk. Some other advantages are financing. Retailers don't have to borrow money to pay for extra stock. They can use previous sales of smaller quantities to buy more. Next, when it comes to buying, it saves time and effort of finding multiple suppliers when you have one wholesaler that has all the products you need, or at least that one product in large quantities. As well, transportation. Wholesalers usually deliver without a charge because they want to sell large quantities of their product to each retail store, and that's a benefit for the smaller retail stores to not have to pay for the transportation of the product. Further, managing. So wholesalers will provide advice on inventory management and play a major role in controlling inventory levels for their customers being the retail store. So they'll actually help with the inventory management for a smaller store. Promoting. So wholesalers will pass on free promotional materials, and that is free advertising for the store where the end customer still might purchase the product at the store. The last one is provide marketing information. So wholesalers tend to know what's hot and what's not, and kind of what's on the horizon. So they'll be able to pass along that information for the retail stores so that they can pick up the product and benefit from this information. So the last channel we're going to look at is a specialty channel. So that is essentially any distribution that does not involve a retail store. So that's where the producer goes through the specialty channel right to the consumer. Some examples of this are a vending machine, the internet or online shopping, catalogs, telemarketing, and television sales. Telemarketing is where companies use the phone to call customers and ask them if they're interested in purchasing something. And you've come to the end of the lesson presentation. You may now move on.